Thank you. Thank you. When Richard mentioned the 5 causes of unhappiness, one of the ones he didn't mention was of misery, was of being asked at 5 o'clock last night to stand in for Carrie Cooper. I'm looking at the guest list here and seeing that the audience is full of very engaged and engaging, illustrious academics, clinicians, civil civics, and parliamentarians. So I joined the Action for Happiness campaign overnight, and here I am today to talk to you all. And I'm going to carry on from where Mike Shooter, BACP's president, left off in talking about a programme of research which has ended with a counsellor in every school in Wales. And I'd like to say, I hope, Richard, that I'm not going to over-egg this research, and I'm going to be cautious in recommending it, because I think dosage and monitoring outcomes is very important. But just in terms of parity, I also want to make the point that if you have a physical health condition and you, for example, get some antibiotics, no one expects that one intervention to cure you of all physical ill health for the rest of your life. But I think that there's some particular driver around mental unhappiness and mental ill health which says one intervention and you should be cured. And I do think that when we're looking at long-term outcomes and looking at interventions for people with psychological unhappiness, that we need to think about having ongoing, continuing services that people could dip in and out of, and we don't expect a miracle cure from one intervention. So that was just in response to what you said.
I think I said that. I hope I did.
I think you probably did. I'm just checking. Okay, so what I'm going to talk about is a way in which BACP has been involved in some research which has made a difference to everyday life. I hope when I talk about it you'll think that's true, and thus contributes to the Academy's campaign to show that social science can have a huge impact and make a difference in people's lives. So, in 2004, as a result of a courage inquiry in Wales, the then Children's Commissioner, Peter Clark, advised the Welsh Government, as a result of that inquiry, to put into place in every school in Wales a trusted adult that children and young people could talk to. And on the back of that recommendation, the Welsh Government commissioned some research through an open tender to look at whether counselling services might be able to provide that trusted individual for children and young people to speak to. Now, this was on the back of a series of serious sexual abuse cases, and it preceded the Bridgend cluster of suicides, and there was a great deal of concern in Wales about the mental health and wellbeing of children and young people in that country. BACP, along with the University of Strathclyde and Newcastle, tendered for the research and won it, and undertook a year programme to look at counselling services across the UK and in particular in Wales, and to make recommendations to the Welsh Government about how those services operated and how they were effective. We did some desk research, we looking at service evaluations and reports. We did a review of the effectiveness of counselling with children and young people, and importantly we talked to commissioners and users of services, including local education authorities, head teachers. We talked to pastoral care staff, to teachers, to children, and to Funky Dragon, which was the Welsh Government's children and young people stakeholder group, who were fantastic. As a result of that year-long research project, we made 10 evidence-informed recommendations to the Welsh Government, and you'll know what some of them are already without even having done the research. They are about providing safe and ethical services for children and young people, confidential services within the limits of safeguarding, easily accessible services and non-stigmatising services. Those were the sort of services which children told us they wanted and which teachers and parents wanted delivered. Now, the Welsh Government, on the back of those research recommendations, wrote a national schools standards strategy for counselling, and they encouraged schools which already had counselling services to aspire to these evidence-informed recommendations, and any new services to develop to take these recommendations in mind when developing. And their aim was for all schools in Wales to have access to counselling services. After 3 years, the Welsh Government commissioned a second piece of social science research, which again we bid for, this time with the 2 previous universities, but also the University of Newport in Wales and the University of Cardiff. That was to undertake, and we won the bid again, and that was to undertake an evaluation of the counselling services which existed in Wales, looking specifically at the outcomes and the mental health of the children who access those services, along with a long range of satisfaction and other user engagement measures. I can't go into all the findings here, but here's something I did earlier. If anybody wants a copy of the report, I think it's in the pack, and it's over there as well. And I'm happy to send versions to you afterwards. The key findings were that there were 5 main problems for children who access counselling services in Wales. They were family difficulties, anger management, school-related issues including behaviour and bullying, and sadly bereavement. You can imagine there was a long list including low self-esteem, self-harm and so on and so forth, but if we were cutting off at the top 5, those were the 5. In looking at the 11,000 episodes, I think it was, of counselling that were accessed during those 3 years, overall the effectiveness of counselling was very good. So not only did children like the counselling that was what was on offer, but also it showed good effects using 2 standardised measures, one which is around strengths and difficulties questionnaire, and one was a core young person's questionnaire. Now, head teachers, who in my experience are quite a tough bunch of people and who don't spend money or bring people into their school unless they add value, reported, not with the same hard evidence that you had, Richard, in relation to your Pen Resilience programme, but reported that their perceptions of the counselling services were that attendance, behaviour and achievement, attainment, had improved as a result of the counselling. So overall, the counselling service was seen to be evaluated to be a good success. Now, what happened next was, and to bring this to an end, was that, as Mike said, the Welsh Government took note of the second report, fed it into the debates that were going on in the Welsh Assembly Government, fed it into the Welsh School Standards and Organisation Bill, and earlier this year the School Standards Bill was passed, which made it a statutory responsibility for LEAs to provide access to children in secondary schools in Wales across the country. And as Mike said, this is now going to be extended with further funding to children in primary schools as well. So for me, speaking to you all today, to you as an expert audience, I think that I hope I've demonstrated that this is a very good example, in my view at least, of how some social science research can inform strategy, strategy can inform policy, policy can inform legislation, legislation informs commissioning, commissioning which is informed by those first 10 research recommendations about what's best practice, then says how the services are commissioned and delivered, and the overall and end impact with some funding is that the mental health and wellbeing of children and young people in Wales is improving, which is a huge impact to have. And if I stopped working tomorrow, I think it would be the thing I've been proudest of having been involved with over my time at BACP. Now, Andy, I'm glad you were here for my bit of the presentation, because the good example of Wales and Northern Ireland in making school counselling available hasn't yet been taken up by England, but I know it's something you're very interested in, and I'm more than happy, of course, to come and talk to you about it any time. And I'd like to just say I think that it's been a pleasure to talk about this research and how it's had an impact upon mental health and wellbeing, and I think it also fits into your brief and your campaign, which we're delighted to support, about social science research making a difference. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Nancy.